Marketing isn't just about creativity anymore. It's about speed, efficiency, and impact. But with endless tasks and shrinking timelines, how can marketers keep up without lowering the quality of their work? I wanted to explore how AI could transform marketing workflows, not just automating tasks, but enhancing creativity and strategic decision-making. Shalu Wasu, a co-founder of Gimmefy, joined us to break down how AI is empowering marketers to be even more creative while working smarter, faster, and more effectively. Before we get into our conversation, let's hear from our sponsor. Before we jump in, let's thank the sponsor of this episode, Dr. Tech. Dr. Tech can help you build your e-commerce store and start selling quickly online and on social media in just a few days. And Dr. Tech stores are gorgeous, modern, and responsive. They are fully customizable and simple to use. Dr. Tech stores have hundreds of included optimizations that will help you sell more online, and a support team that can answer all of your questions. With Dr. Tech, there are no hidden costs, no commissions on sales, no add-ons to buy. Everything is included in one simple subscription. So go to hellodr.tech/ATP to get a free trial and start building your store. You can find the link in the description below. Also, Dr. Tech is offering a special deal to the listeners of the Asia Tech podcast. After your free trial, you can get your first full month for only $1. To get this deal, simply type ATP into the live chat and they will send you a special promo code. Thanks again to Dr. Tech for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the show. When I was graduating from college, first of all, I grew up in a really small town and I knew nothing about anything, to be fair, right? You'll see where I'm going with this in a second. And we were so poor that like all I wanted to do was make some money when I graduated from college. And there was this siren song of just like Wall Street calling, and I was good at math and economics, and I was like, I'm going there. And in retro, it was okay. But to be fair, it wasn't like fun, right? And I feel like if I had even known marketing existed as a thing, or if I'd even known like Madison Avenue advertising back then, right? I think I would have done that. I have so much more fun doing marketing. I'm wondering like what got you into it? Like, how did you even know it was a thing?
I think it was more of a reverse process, Michael. So when I was doing my MBA, I kind of, felt based on conversations and stuff that finance and tech is not it for me. It seemed a bit dry, seemed a bit boring, seemed a bit repetitive, and marketing kind of felt like new projects every day and new things to do every day and exciting and creative, and that's what got me into it. And it's been exciting. I've kind of now spent over 2 decades in there.
So, what prompted your first startup? If you don't mind talking about it a little bit.
The first startup, we kind of did not really think about what we're going to end up as. We started off building a tech-heavy agency, and we, I used to work with Ogilvy, and when I left, they kind of wanted to invest in the company as well, and we started off as a tech-heavy agency. But then we iterated, and we sort of tried out different things, and we started off building our first business, which was, in those days, Facebook apps used to be the coolest thing ever, and people were spending 15, 20, 30 grand making simple photo contests and launching it on their Facebook pages and so on. And I was on the other side. I was selling those campaigns and things while I was at Ogilvy, and I realized that, hey, we could build a product out of this. And therefore, that was the first product that we built. We built like a DIY platform where people could build their own contests and games and lucky draws and photo contests on Facebook and launch it. And run that as a subscription business, which got some traction. But then after a while, we realized that we were slower than the guys who were, we were still like an agency in the day and building this at night. And then we realized that we were not as fast as the guys who were dedicated to doing this in the US, etc. So we had to stop doing this, and then we pivoted, and then we ended up building a listening platform, and that took off. And that kind of we built a business out of that. We ran that, grew that for a while, and then I exited after some time.
What's a listening platform for people that might not know?
So a listening platform is kind of exactly what it says it does. So like marketers have been used to this idea of doing market research by asking people, what do you think about this? What do you think about my price? What do you think about my competitors? And asking them like a bunch of questions in a survey, and then based on the responses, you make fancy charts and you kind of make decisions based on that. And listening, social listening is basically a way of doing that without telling people that we're doing that. So you track conversations that they're having on social media platforms, on blogs, on forums, etc., and then make sense of those conversations. You know, a lot of those conversations, are feedback for marketers in terms of pricing, features, etc., and helps them make better decisions. So that's social listening.
I got it. Okay. So do you remember your first exposure to artificial intelligence? I mean, I remember mine, and I remember thinking, I don't know what this is going to end up being. What was yours?
Like everyone else, I really dived into it when the whole Gen AI explosion happened in 22, 23, late 22, early 23. And, when you had the first version of ChatGPT kind of taking off and then, suddenly you had somebody intelligent on the other side responding to you. And it felt like, wow. And that's when we really, really dived into it. Yeah. Before that, yes, a bit here, a bit there, but nothing that really switched me on. But ChatGPT, early days, 22, late 22 was it.
And were you just experimenting with it before you decided, I think I need to start like a new thing just using generative AI?
Like I've been a marketer, like I said, and marketers in general, Michael, are a busy bunch, and, if you ask a marketer, hey, how are you doing? The typical response you'll get is, hey, I'm really busy. I got this campaign going off. I got this ad campaign to release. I've got to get approvals on that. I've got to launch this. I've got to create this. I've got to do that. And they're always kind of busy. And, there's stuff on the assembly line getting done all the time. But honestly speaking, not all of that is life changing. Not all of that is stuff that really makes the needle move. And when I saw all the ChatGPT stuff and the other AI platforms that were coming on, suddenly I felt that, hey, this could be really amazing, where we could use it to automate a lot of stuff for real for the first time. We could connect this with that and program that, and then this would happen automatically, and everything would kind of just get done. And we could all just go and retire in Phuket or Bali and just live there for the rest of our life. And and that was the thought. And then, of course, we kind of ran into obstacles and challenges and problems. And that's when we decided to build Gimmefy. But that was the original thought.
So talk to me about what some of those challenges are. Look, my first exposure to it obviously was ChatGPT, but then one of my business partners started creating images mid-journey.
Yeah.
And he's half my age, right? Like I'm 59, he's 30. And I was just like, how can you possibly do this? So he set up an account for me on Discord, and I started like doing my own prompts, but I couldn't figure it out. And then we started building more prompts, and his prompting was better. And then my prompting was better. And once you figure it out, it's like kind of amazing. But I think regular people maybe don't understand like how this prompting works and how to make it consistent and stuff like that. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that and how that works.
Yes, Michael, that's a great observation and great thought. Like, just like you, initially when I first saw someone, intelligently responding to my questions or prompts, or it was like, wow, that's magic. And and then whether it's images or pictures or ideas or words or whatever, and then when you actually start trying to use it for real work, it's good for fun and games, and it's good for, hey, give me 10 ideas for my kid's birthday, or what can I get? It's great. But when you really want to start using it for professional work, and want to make sure that all the ideas and content I create are on brand every time, all the time, it kind of takes into account my landscape and my competition and my USPs and my business all the time. When you're trying to make sure that, like you said, how do you get the prompting right? How do you, and you can probably, work hard to get it right for one use case, but how do you get it right for 100, 200 use cases that marketers need for all the time? How do you know when to stop iterating, and when you kind of have it? How do you know what is ChatGPT good for? What is Gemini good for? What is Anthropic better at? What is if you want to make images, do you do it on DALL-E 3? Should you do it on Stability? Should you do it on Midjourney? And which one is better for what use case, and so on? So a lot of these kind of challenges which are real and practical, and not therefore making it usable in a professional sense. And we therefore decided to build Gimmefy to solve some of these challenges, the frustration around prompts, and making sure it's on brand, and making sure it's got a bunch of these marketing features in there, and making it easy for marketers to use, taking away the prompt challenges, integrating with every AI model out there to make sure marketers have the best of everything, and so on.
Can you talk to me about how this works? Again, I understand now how to do my own prompting, but I don't want to use the word consistent now, but I'm very specific about what I prompt for. right? And the stuff that I do really well. But the stuff that I don't do, I have no idea how to do. And one of the things that I struggle with, and I'm sure that a lot of people do, is how do I get an image that looks exactly like I want it to look, or a content that sounds exactly like I want it to sound, but that's also consistent, right? Like when I write, and this is something I'm actually struggling with today, I have a voice, whether I know what that voice is or not. But it's hard for me to like write something, then tell the AI, write something that sounds like this on a completely different topic. You know what I mean though, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle that? And then how do you customize it for, 17 different clients or 17 different people?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is the starting point, Michael. That's how anyone who gets started with Gimmefy, the first step is to train Gimmefy on what your brand or your business stands for. And like you said, the best output happens when Gimmefy understands not just my brand, but also understands who's the audience that I'm trying to talk to, who are my customers, what does my competitive landscape look like, what are my USPs, what are my goals and objectives, and keeping all of that in mind. When I ask it to draft me a LinkedIn post or a press release or make me a bunch of ideas or campaign or anything, I want it to always use that knowledge base, which comprises of all of these 360 kind of touch points. And that was therefore the first challenge. So we've ended up creating this really cool feature, which we call the Gimmefy Brand Vault. And once the Brand Vault is created, which takes a couple of minutes, it's automated to, most of it is automated as well. And then Gimmefy understands who I am, who my competition is, what my audience looks like, where are they located, who my customers are. And then from there onwards, everything I ask it to do, whether it's to make a press release or it is to make me a content calendar for Instagram, or give me a bunch of ideas to increase my sales or anything else, it always keeps all of that stuff in mind while it's creating all of this stuff for me. And that was the first challenge. And that is, the first thing that we did. And then in the other kind of challenge you mentioned is, you can maybe, get really good at doing one thing, but how do you get really good at doing 200 things that marketers need to do on a day-to-day basis? Right. So the approach we've taken, Michael, is we've tried to marry the best of all AI, make it available on a single platform in a seamless manner. So we've got integrations with every AI model out there. Our platform automatically matches the right use case. So if you want to make a press release or make a campaign idea or make visuals or anything else, it can automatically works with the best underlying AI model for that use case. And then on top of that, we've applied a very significant layer of AI training. So, like if you want to make a press release, we've worked with the best PR experts in the world, got their learnings and wisdom, and trained Gimmefy to use that every time you do it. If you want to make great creative ideas, we've done the same with creative people and planning people and so on. So by combining the best of AI and the best of marketing, wisdom, learning experiences, we kind of end up creating, the best possible output. It's a bit like saying if David Ogilvy were to get married to Sam Altman and they were to make a baby, that would be Gimmefy. And that's kind of what we're trying to build.
I'm guessing you did not make that up just now. I'm guessing you've been thinking about that for a while.
Yeah, it's been a line that I used to kind of explain our approach to this whole space.
So who uses it? Is this made for agencies and enable them to scale and like do things faster? I'll give you an example of why. When I was at Goldman Sachs, right, we bought a business. Oh God, I can't remember what it's called anymore, but we turned it into Goldman Sachs algorithmic trading, GSAT. And one of the reasons why we built this algorithmic trading business, I mean, only one of them, but there were plenty more reasons why, was to just automate the sort of day-to-day trading of our agency book. Okay. And it meant that we could go from, if we had the same 3 employees, instead of being able to do 10 trades a day, we could do 50 trades a day. And even though our commissions contracted, our profits went up because we could do so much more business. Is this the same idea for like a marketing agency where I can now have 100 customers as opposed to 10 customers? And I'm presuming that internally, even as an individual who's serving, let's say, 7 or 8 different clients, I can have 7 or 8 different avatars for me. So that if I'm dealing with client A, I can have avatar A. And if I'm dealing with client B, I have avatar B, which means that my voice could be different for all of them. Is that right?
That's exactly how we've tried to build it, Michael. And you should probably be on the other side, advise us, because you kind of really getting the whole proposition. But we're not that old. We kind of launched and went live with the first version of the platform late last year, and since then we've been iterating, learning from feedback, and making changes to the platform. And when we launched, Michael, we wanted to be the solution for all marketers, whether you're on the
Yeah.
brand side, whether you're on the agency side, whether you're a government organization. We wanted it to work for everyone, and very quickly realized that's not how it works. And therefore, over time, we've learned that agencies use it in a very different way. Brands use it in a very different way. And therefore, we've iterated, added more features, and now we have like two versions of the platform. One is meant for agencies to be able to work with multiple brands. Each brand can be worked on in a different silo with a different team. You can structure a team around each brand and create multiple workspaces. You can have as many brand walls as you want. Even putting together the best of AI with the best of marketing wisdom is not enough to get stunning output. To get stunning output, it also has to sort of be an extension of who you are in terms of your business, your brand, your tone of voice, your the way you talk, the kind of things you want to do. And therefore, we've really now gone down the road of creating a bespoke version of Gimmefy, which means that every time we sign up a new brand or an agency, we create abc.gimmefy.ai, which will have
really?
their custom use cases that they are really keen on. If they have some unique, peculiar, interesting things that they want Gimmefy to do, we built it for them. It's available on their platform. It has a bigger and deeper knowledge base of understanding their business and their competition and their landscape. And therefore, it over time becomes an extension of who they are, and that's the version that we feel is finding that product market fit that we've been sort of getting nearer and nearer to. And now we feel that this is the version, like combining the best of AI with the best of marketing training, with building it customized for your brand. Like that, putting the third piece together is the answer.
So when you started Gimmefy, and I've kind of learned this over time, right? I don't want to call myself an entrepreneur at the same level as you are, but at the end of the day, I'm building my own business.
You are.
And I think when you start your own business, whether it's alone as a solo entrepreneur with multiple partners, it kind of doesn't matter. You have an idea in your head about what you're going to build and what the output of that is going to be. And yet it's never really that over time. For sure. And I think every real entrepreneur will tell you that. Like, I had this idea, I started building, and then my clients told me that's great, but what I really want is this.
Yep.
You talked already about iterating. Do you mind if we cover just a little bit about, right? Because there are things you definitely know, but the unknowns you don't know at all. And as your clients come back and give you new ideas, can you just talk a little bit? Because I like this idea of client.gimmefy.com. Right? That's how you separate it out. Like, that's how you do it. And that's a great idea. But you probably didn't think about that on day one.
No.
Right? You didn't. And you wouldn't have, right? But what are some of the other things that maybe you didn't think about where your client said this and you're like, that's a killer idea? Do you know what I mean?
So that's a great question again, Michael. And one of my favorite recent features that we've introduced, it kind of goes back to my agency days, which was one of my most frustrating times being at an agency, where a client would usually call a pitch and say, "Hey, this is what we're trying to do," and agency A, B, and C come pitch to me, and then I'll decide which one I like, and I'll go with that. And typically, what would happen is that I like a bit of this idea, I like a bit of that idea, and I like a bit of this, and you cannot do a bit of a mishmash of that and then go to the guy who's bid the cheapest. And that was a very frustrating moment. And what we've tried to do is learn from that and build a really cool feature on Gimmefy based on that frustration. So now on Gimmefy, when you ask it to generate let's say a LinkedIn post or a press release or campaign ideas or a brainstorm, it doesn't just give you multiple options of, it's like briefing in 3 creative teams at the same time. So we actually call it team A, team B, and team C. And it's like in real life, you have 3 amazing creative teams who are all great, but who look at the world through a different lens and therefore respond to your problem in a different way. On Gimmefy, we've built in the same sort of feature by training 3 underlying AI models in a completely different way. And therefore, when you see the 3 different outputs, you just feel different, even though they're trying to solve the same problem. And that's been the most loved feature in the last few weeks.
So do you mean like, just as an example, and I'm making this up off the top of my head, but you're saying like you have 3 internal avatars, one of which is like the serious guys, 2 is like the cool kids, and 3 is like the funny people or whatever, so that when you give them something, it comes back in that kind of environment or in that kind of voice, and you can get to choose. And all 3 of those can also iterate a little bit, but at least you know what you're getting when you're getting it. And you can see the difference in the LinkedIn post that they do or the tweet that they write or whatever it is. You can see it and feel that difference, and your clients can go, I feel like I'm dealing with 3 separate agencies here, and I want to do the LinkedIn post this way, but I want to do the imagery this way, kind of thing. That's kind of cool, right?
That's exactly the idea. And we want our clients to have multiple choices and options because, ultimately, if you have more options, you make better decisions. You make better decisions, you succeed faster. So, yeah.
Can I ask you this? Can you customize it even more? So let's say I want to write a post in like the tone of Walter Cronkite. Like there's 1,000 or millions of writings out there, or videos or audio out there of Walter Cronkite, and then a bunch of them of Robin Williams, right? So, and they're 2 completely different people. Can I just tell Gimmefy, give me a LinkedIn post in Robin Williams' voice and it's kind of hilarious or very fast-paced, and Walter Cronkite where it's super serious? Is that possible as well?
Yes, all of that is possible. And, all of that, what we've sort of also learned, Michael, is that, approaching a problem like this and asking, Gimmefy to write copy in the style of David Ogilvy or do this in the style of somebody else and write this article in the style of this article is great for checking it out and testing it out. But when you actually want to use it for real work, you kind of want to make sure that it's exactly based on a 360 understanding of your business and your brand. And what we've learned here is that, it's not even enough to create one version of your brand vault, because sometimes I, as a brand, want to create a LinkedIn post with a B2B audience in mind. And I want to write a newsletter with a B2C audience in mind. And I want to write a white paper or an article with a government audience in mind. And therefore, I may want to, create a brand vault in 3 different versions, the B2B version, government version, B2C version. And we can enable that as well.
I don't know how to ask this the right way, but have you run into a situation where the AI can just be super creative, right? You said you're connecting to all these different versions of artificial intelligence that all have kind of a back end different learning model, right? And because of that, can you combine some of the things together and just get something really creative that you didn't expect? And I'll give you an example of this. I did a recording with a guy named Judd Wilmot and a guy named Jackie Lin about building a 3-minute video for the Shanghai Film Festival. And they used AI to create the characters. And they could use the AI to create thousands of versions of each individual character. And it came back with some things that they highly did not anticipate. And some of them were super cool. So it went it did what you said, and then it was like, yeah, how about this one though, which is kind of like an outlier. Can you do that with some of the stuff that you're building as well?
Yes. I mean, most people are skeptical about AI's ability to come up with really original, creative ideas and concepts. We've trained Gimmefy now to come back with creative concepts and ideas and pitch it back to the user the way they would expect an agency to come back and pitch it to them. It actually kind of pitches it to them like that. And it still makes my jaw drop, every, 3 times a week. And how amazing and how creative and how interesting the ideas are. But it's not straightforward to get Gen AI based platforms to do that, Michael, because you kind of, hinted at earlier, Gen AI by definition is trained to give us back the most expected answer or the most expected response, because it's been trained on this vast kind of, universe of, knowledge. And, it kind of is. So asking it to be creative and giving us unusual ideas, it almost like going against the grain of how, Gen AI is meant to be and is trained. And therefore, we had to employ lots of interesting approaches and hacks and techniques to kind of extract unusual and effective and interesting ideas every time you put it in. And now we've got really good at it, where if you like an idea, you can just click another button and say, hey, give me variation this idea by making it more emotional. Give me 6 variations, make it more rational. Give me 6 variations, make it more original, and so on and so forth. but it's been a very interesting journey getting it to extracting creativity from it.
How do you strike a balance? And again, this is just based on my own experience, right? I use Midjourney to create thumbnails for some of my podcasts. And I do the same thing. I do exactly what you've just suggested. I see what I get, and I'm like, can you just do it a little bit different, right? You just press the iterate button, or I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But then you run into this problem of how do I get the proper discovery, right? If I can create 100 images in 10 minutes, how then do I decide which one is good and which one is bad? Like, how do you strike that balance between volume and quality? Do you know what I mean? Or even just volume and decision making, right? Because again, if someone comes to you with a pitch and they have 5 images, it's pretty easy to decide which one you like, and it could be none of them. But if you have 500 images, you're just like, I don't know, can we just go get a drink instead because it's too hard?
You're right. And that is a challenge, and that is a problem. And therefore, the approach that we've taken is we don't kind of want to deal with volume. We don't want to deal with like you ask for an idea, you get 3 options. Yep. And then what we've tried to do is we've built in mechanisms which allow you to work with the idea, to go back and forth with the idea, to say, hey, I like this one. Can you add a bit of a dash of humor to this? Or I like this one. Can you, sprinkle some emotion into it? Or can you make this a bit unexpected or make it a bit bigger? So what we've tried to make it really easy for users is to work with a concept, work with an idea, and then go back and forth with Gimmefy till the time you get something you love. So we try not to drown people with 500 options, but we try to give them every time like half a dozen amazing options. And then the one you like, you can kind of work with it. And once you're happy with it, you just click a few more buttons, and then you got your Insta content and LinkedIn content and everything kind of ready. But we try to let them work with it, because the end goal is still, partner with Gimmefy. You don't press a button and then go away to Bali. We're still not there yet, but you kind of partner with Gimmefy to get the best output possible.
So personally, I think it's not the desired outcome to press a button and go to Bali. And I have my own philosophy about this. We'll cover that later, I think. But I don't think that that's the end of this. I am super curious about this, though. You're in Singapore?
I'm based in Singapore.
So Singapore, the Singapore government, and again, I don't live there, right? So I don't know this directly. I just know what I read. But I feel like the Singaporean government has done a really good job of not anticipating the future, but as they get closer to the future, it's just saying like, we need to support this. Do you know what I mean? It was the same with financial services, right? So the MAS has done a super good job of regulating the financial markets. I mean, a really good job. And they anticipated a bunch of things as they see it coming maybe in the rest of the world. And then they try to regulate it properly there without taking away the creativity, but still allowing it, but then protecting the end users of it, right? So I feel like they've done a really good job there. They've done the same thing with startups and with funding for venture capitalists. And I feel like the media and marketing arm, the IMDA has done a really good job as well. Can you tell me if you've had any interaction with them and like what the impact of working with them, getting recognized or approved by them? Because I think about it for my own business, right? Like I'm running a media business. What do they do to help support enterprises like yours? So, because it is the future, right? They can't stop it from happening. They see it happening. They're like, okay, how do we make sure it happens in a way that we like and respect and doesn't destroy the existing part of the business, because they don't want to do that either, right? Like, what is it like working with them?
I think Singapore and IMDA have managed to build one of the most amazing places to start and build a company. And I can say that now because, Gimmefy, we now have presence in the Middle East. We have presence in North America as well. And we've kind of seen the process of getting started in 3 different parts of the world. And I can just say that, folks who are getting started in Singapore and starting up businesses here are extremely lucky to kind of be in that kind of an environment. It's a very structured approach. It's a structured approach to fostering entrepreneurship and creativity, which is very unusual. But I think they've made it work, and they work really hard at making it work in terms of the programs, in terms of the sort of plans and incentives and structured ways of guiding companies through. They've, I think, done a tremendous job. So one of the things that they have is this program called IMDA Spark. And this is where they identify young companies which they feel have the potential to become global companies. And we've been picked up as an IMDA Spark company as well. And that kind of means that, they like us, and they're helping us along in a variety of ways, in, schemes and grants, etc., to help us have a shot at being a global product company. And we've enjoyed the process. Along the way, they've thoroughly checked us and tested us, and before giving us this certification, we've been through a ringer in terms of financial evaluation and tech evaluation, and therefore now when the government organizations deal with us, they kind of know that, hey, these guys have been tested. They must be good.
Look, I mean, I've been in Asia for over 30 years, right? And I've been watching the development of the Singapore and frankly, the Southeast Asia startup ecosystem since 2000. And I'll say January 1st, 2012. I kind of made my first investment around then. Right. So it's more than a decade now. And I think it's changed a lot and it's matured a lot. But back then it was just like, there's Amazon in the United States. How do we build an e-commerce company, right? There's, what was the other one? Groupon, right? How do we build whatever Groupon was? All this kind of stuff was just copying. Do you feel like things are happening in reverse now, where like you actually have the opportunity to have access to technology and then can iterate and build something that maybe the rest of the world can use? Whereas before that wasn't really possible. And even if it was possible, it wasn't really happening. Is there this little guy versus big guy thing that you feel like is happening now, and that things are switching into reverse?
I feel like, like being based here is kind of luckily becoming the best of all worlds, because we're based in Singapore, which makes it easy to get started with the ecosystem here and the environment here and the initial investments and the government involvement and all of that. So it makes it easy to get started. And then as we grow a bit bigger and as we need to build a bigger tech team, etc., we cannot just, fly down into our neighborhood and start building a little tech team out of India, which is, the best place to build a tech team. And then as we need to, get our first few customers, we start off in Singapore, but then we start, expanding into Philippines and Indonesia. And because all of these countries, markets are so different, they teach us different things. They want to partner in different ways. They want to use it in different ways. And therefore, the learning that we have in working with different sizes of customers, different kinds of customers is fantastic. And all of this has kind of, I think, prepared us to now go and address larger markets in the Middle East, in Europe, in the US, and now we have, a presence in the Middle East and in the US, and we feel like we're ready. We feel like all of this kind of initial hustle in this part of the world has prepared us to sort of be there now.
I feel like if I didn't know approximately how old you were, like if I were just closing my eyes and listening to your voice, I feel like you're 25 or 26 years old. You just sound so excited about this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you wake up every day and you're just like, whoa, what can we build? What can we do? Whereas maybe before, and I didn't know you before, right? But like, you're just going to work and doing your job and doing a good job at it. But are you as excited as you sound to me? And if you are, like, what is the most exciting? But you seem happy about this. Like, you don't seem like, and I'm not saying you're not working hard, but it's a different kind of work, right? You sound excited about it. What is it that excites you about this so much?
You're right. I'm working the hardest I've ever worked, and I think the happiest that I've ever been. And
same.
This is, what I learned a while ago, Michael, about myself was that I find the greatest joy in building and creating things. Bringing things to life that do not exist or did not exist earlier, and that gives me the greatest satisfaction among many other things that I could do. And therefore, as I see this growing and developing from an initial idea to now a team of about 20 plus people, presence in 3 different markets, a great product, lots of great brand names using it. As I see it kind of coming to life in front of me, that's the greatest joy that I could get. And I joke about it in the sense that building a business now, and you probably feel the same, Michael. It makes my previous work experiences or my jobs feel like a vacation. Like I was on a vacation for many years, and now it feels like I'm actually doing something productive. And like even though everyone else thought I'm doing great, but it kind of feels like I was on vacation.
So, what do you think makes a great founder of a business? Because you guys must be doing something right. If you're hiring 20 people, if you're operating in multiple markets, you must be really good, right? And anybody can build anything that they want. They can try, right? But to be really great at it, you have to be the best team in this space to kind of outperform everybody, right? So you're sitting there doing great things. And maybe when you were working in your old jobs, you weren't like a founder per se, but now you're doing it. You've been doing it for a while. What do you think makes the team like a great founding team, if that's okay to ask?
I think the obvious and expected answers are, like you have a team of co-founders who bring in different skills, and somebody's good at the sort of selling, marketing part of it, the product conceptualization. Somebody else is getting, great at the tech of it and building of it. All of that is true, and all of that is great. But what I've kind of learned in this little journey the second time around is that one of the most important things is to be okay with the uncertainty, because there are phases when you really don't know, how are we going to develop this, and how are we going to, get through this, and how are we going to launch this next month. So if you're the kind who kind of needs to feel in control all the time and needs to know what my roadmap looks like for the next 3 months all the time, then it's going to get very tricky. But I've learned that if you kind of are okay with the uncertainty, if you are okay with not knowing, sometimes how things are going to pan out, and how this, what do we do if this happens? What do we do? I think that's, one of the most important softer skills. But all the other things about the hard stuff is absolutely true. Like being good at numbers and hustling and not saying no and working hard, and all of that is true. But dealing with the uncertainty, I think, is a tricky one.
Yeah, it's really hard. And particularly your team, right? Because at the founding level, you've already made a commitment to uncertainty. Like when however many co-founders you have, the 3 of you or the 2 of you, whatever, you looked at each other like, okay, let's try this thing. We'll do the best we can, but it's going to be completely uncertain. But I don't want to say the staff, but as you start hiring people, they're hiring into a place where they think it feels kind of stable to me, right?
You're right.
And in the back end, they can't see. So that's the tricky part. Sorry, go ahead.
And again, my kind of learning on this part is, Michael, that like I chat with friends and I chat with other people who are building, businesses and so on. I feel that rather than always creating this or trying to create this feel that, hey, we've already got it covered and we know exactly what we're doing and we know exactly what's going to happen and this is what we want to do. And trying to create that almost a facade is perhaps, not the best way to deal with it. And sometimes I'm happy to share with the team as well. Hey, this is a challenge. We don't know how we're going to figure it out, but we will kind of figure it out along the way. But we're going to try this and then this and then this and then this. And that, I feel that energizes the team in a different way. And that, I think is better in the long run. It's just too draining to always keep this, facade of everything is fine. Like, don't subscribe to that.
I agree with you completely. And the reason why I'm thinking about this is because I had a conversation with my team last week about this. And one of the things that I stressed was it's not always going to be perfect. But the one thing we have to do is we've got to communicate with each other on a regular basis, and we have to communicate openly so that like, I don't want to say like we're just about to go off a cliff and everyone could die, but it's more just like, let's just make sure we're doing the things we said we're going to do, that if we can't do them, we communicate with each other. And if we don't know how to get something done, we talk and say, can you help me with this? So that at the end of the day, we're doing the best we can with the resources that we have available to succeed. If we don't, at least we tried. But if we don't communicate with each other, well, then we can't help each other. And then what are we doing? That's kind of the way that I look at it. I agree with you. I think you have to be as open as you possibly can without scaring, the craziness out of everybody. But fair enough. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as you look ahead, and I'll be honest with you, you ask me this question, I can give you an answer for my business. But when you look ahead 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, what do you see happening? What's the vision going forward? Surely the vision will change, but there's this long-term vision of, I want to build this thing. What is that thing you're trying to build over time?
So our vision, Michael, is to build Gimmefy into the smartest marketer in the world and make her available as a subscription platform for anyone who wants to punch above their weight when it comes to marketing. And our approach is to marry the best of AI with the best of human wisdom and, make it bespoke and customized for each brand and business that we're working with. And that's all we know. Now within that, the AI technology capability platforms are changing and will keep changing. So we're kind of building it in a way where we can plug into whatever is the best available at that point of time. We are constantly getting feedback from our clients and users and customers in terms of, hey, can we do that? Can we build that? Can you do that? Can I try this? and that's giving us lots of ideas in terms of the training, the capabilities, the use cases that we can build on the platform. And we're going deeper and deeper into the making it more bespoke and making it more and more behave and talk and be like you. And these are the top line principles that we are following. Now within that, how exactly will things be 3 years later, 4 years later? I don't think anyone knows. But our ambition from a business point of view is to find we now feel that we're being able to add real value to marketers in this part of the world, people who are using us. And the first bunch of customers has given us really great confidence that we kind of building something right. And we now just want to scale that and try and get to 100 million in ARR as quickly as we can, hopefully in the next 3 to 4 years. And then take it from there. But that's all we know, and everything else we kind of adapt and we learn every day and we try different things and we figure it out.
I love it. I'm going to let you go. Shalu Wasu, a co-founder of Gimmefy. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Bye.